As America doubles down on its comments on the Arvind Kejriwal arrest, India has said that the American response is unwarranted and unacceptable. Meanwhile, the Delhi Chief Minister will continue to remain in custody. I'm Barkha Dutt, you're with the Mojo Story. We're looking at the political, legal, and now the foreign policy implications of the arrest of the Chief Minister. He got no relief from the court today either. He argued his own case in court. He had promised a big expose, and it all hinged on something that has been in the headlines, including on this platform for the last few days. The story of a corporate entity called Aurobindo Pharma that the Aam Aadmi Party says is at the hub of this arrest. This is an entity, this is our own independent spade work, and we have reported this. This is an entity that purchased close to 60 crores worth of bonds for the BJP. It also gave money to other parties, including the BRS and the TDP. But the bulk of the money went in bonds to the BJP, 55 crores of which were after the Aurobindo Pharma promoter turned from accused to an approver in the case. The AAP says this points to the fact that the money trail leads to the BJP. So why is the AAP in the dock? The BJP says the Aam Aadmi Party is deflecting, and every single arrest in this case has been upheld by the court, by the judicial process, including that of Manish Sisodia, of Sanjay Singh, of Satyendra Jain. So it has nothing to do, the BJP argues, with the electoral bonds. There's a lot to unpack here, from politics to law, from the liquor scam to the electoral bonds, and now it seems foreign policy as well, with India reacting sharply to the Americans doubling down on the Kejriwal arrest. Let's introduce a very distinguished set of speakers today as we look at this big political story. Percy Bilamoria, one of India's best-known lawyers, senior advocate, is with us. Welcome to the program, Mr. Bilamoria. Also joining us is another fine legal mind, Sanjoy Ghosh. He's a senior advocate as well. Welcome to the program, Sanjoy. Also joining us, a leader of the Aam Aadmi Party and its spokesperson, Akshay Marathe. Welcome to the program. A pleasure as always. Asif Bhamla, leader and spokesperson of the BJP, is with us, and Abhijit Iyer Mitra, who's of course a security affairs analyst and a commentator, is with us as well. Welcome everybody to the program. Akshay, I'll start with you. The point is that before we get to the business of Aurobindo Pharma and the link that the AAP has drawn between the electoral bonds and this arrest, at this moment, the AAP has an existential question. And that existential question is, how long can Arvind Kejriwal remain chief minister from jail? So I want to just start there before we get into the technical aspects of this case. Go ahead, Akshay.
Arvind Kejriwal is actually one of the most popularly elected chief ministers that India has ever seen. He has got a 55% vote share from the people of Delhi. He's won 62 out of 70 seats not once. Even the previous time he won 67 out of 70 seats. And we have found the BJP in a situation where they are completely at odds. They're unable to understand how to tackle with this democratically elected popular chief minister. And because they are so scared of his constant rise in Indian politics, they have resorted to this petty and unfortunate, undemocratic behavior by arresting him without filing a charge sheet against him, without having any accusation against him, without a trial even commencing, let alone a conviction happening against him. So the question of Arvind Kejriwal resigning because just the BJP and the ED have decided that we need to pick this person up and because he's uncomfortable for our politics is out of question. Arvind Kejriwal will not resign. Only and only if the people of Delhi order him out of his seat of power, he will resign, of course. But that is for the electorate to decide. That is for the elections in 2025 to decide, not for the Bharatiya Janata Party or the Enforcement Directorate, who's hell-bent on foisting a fake and illegal arrest and investigation against him.
Now, you have called it a fake and illegal arrest, but the government has made the argument that every arrest in this case has actually been upheld by judicial process. And I have a follow-up question on that, and then I'll open it up. But Kejriwal called what's happening an extortion run. I'm quoting him, an extortion run by the Enforcement Directorate. He also called it a conspiracy. These are brief comments that he gave to the media outside the court. Listen.
सर बिल्कुल पीछे ही है सर एक गाना बनाया तो है यहाँ
सीएम सर एलजी सेइंग कि सरकार जो है वो जेल से नहीं चलेगी व्हाट वुड यू लाइक टू से ऑन दिस एलजी कह रहे हैं सरकार जेल से नहीं चलेगी
ये एक पॉलिटिकल षड्यंत्र है जनता इसका जवाब देगी
Ye political shadyantra hai. Shadyantra means conspiracy. Mr. Bhamla, I was going to come to you. Just want you to settle down in your shot there. In the meantime, let me just ask Akshay a follow-up question. You are naming the BJP. You are blaming the BJP. The BJP is pointing out that everything in this case is a matter of court process, right?
Barkha,
So why?
let's
Yeah.
no, I understand your question. Let's understand that the BJP and Enforcement Directorate are being run from the same BJP headquarters. And this is not something that I am saying, it is for everybody in this country to see. If you join the BJP, the Enforcement Directorate drops all its cases against you. There are ample examples. I don't need to get into all of them. But a recent one is Naveen Jindal, who joined the BJP and got the Kurukshetra Lok Sabha ticket. Just 1 year ago, the ED had raided his offices. And now, of course, there's nothing that's going to happen with that case. On the other hand, you have the ED where if you don't toe the BJP line, you're sent to jail. And if you don't actually do what the ED asks you to do, which like happened with Mr. Sharat Chandra Reddy, until he mentioned Mr. Arvind Kejriwal's name in his statement, he was kept in jail for 6 months after giving 5 statements where he said, I have nothing to do with Mr. Kejriwal. The gentleman was then let go on bail after he took Kejriwal's name. Then he paid the BJP 60 crore rupees to top it up just as a goodwill gesture, I suppose. So that sequence of events has become very clear to the people of India that ED is a political wing of the BJP. There is no investigation element to this at all.
Okay, since you brought up Aurobindo Pharma, and a lot of people may not be looking at this case as closely as some of us are, I will first come to Mr. Bilamoria and then come to the BJP spokesperson, because I want to explain what is this controversy about. What does this case have to do at all with the electoral bonds? That's what we're going to look at. And before I ask a question to Percy Bilamoria, let's take our audience through the sequence of events. Now, Aurobindo Pharma and its subsidiaries in all purchased electoral bonds amounting to 77 crores. The BJP is not the only party to get money in the form of bonds. There are 2 other parties, the BRS and the TDP. 22 crores of bonds are purchased before the arrest of Sarath Reddy. Right? These are all important. These are all factual things. This has nothing to do with politics. Now what happens? Sharath Reddy, who's the promoter of Aurobindo Pharma, gets arrested in the same liquor scam for which Kejriwal has been arrested. He gets arrested on 10th November 2022. 5 days later, he buys some more bonds worth 5 crores. 5 crores, these are for the BJP. Now he spends the next few months, about 6 months, in jail. But in May of 2023, by which time the liquor policy has been taken back by the Delhi government, he changes his comments and he formally turns approver in June 2023. A few months later, he buys a whole big bunch of bonds again. They amount to 55 crores. 55 crores in electoral bonds have gone to the BJP after Aurobindo Pharma's promoter Sarath Reddy turned approver from accused. 50 crores of these was on a single day. Aurobindo Pharma itself purchased 25 crores on the 8th of November, and two of its subsidiaries, wholly owned subsidiaries, mind you, purchased another 25 crores worth of bonds. So 55 crores in all. Again, we're very fair and objective. We want to show you the party-wise breakup. 59.5 crores, of which 55 were after this gentleman turns approver to the BJP, 2.5 crores to the TDP, 15 crores to the BRS. Mr. Bilamoria, this is not illegal. I already am aware of that. But is it not raising questions of public morality, conflict of interest, and giving the AAP a basis to say that this gentleman gave 55 crores because he's basically been let off in a case where he's now turned approver? It's basis his testimony that Arvind Kejriwal has been arrested.
Yeah, so look, I think the timing is a little bit of a question here, but let's keep one thing in mind. There were 8 summons even prior to the declaration of the election schedule. There were 8 summons which went unanswered, and I want to tell you that quite apart from the issue of the money laundering in the alcohol scam, there is another charge that is against him, which is not answering summons. Under the law, not answering a summons, he can be put to a summary trial. Summary trial means it is an open and shut case, and he can be convicted only for that. So this goes a little deeper. Secondly, let me also tell you, let's talk about this approver thing. Okay, technically, what is an approver? An approver is an accomplice who then comes clean and he is granted a pardon. Pardon means that he has already confessed to his own crimes. Confession means that he's already convicted and now he's coming clean. And one of the conditions is that he has to tell the prosecution all the evidence and all the circumstances that are in his knowledge. Now that approver statement, it's not going to be an open and shut case against any of the accused. That statement will be tested during the trial. The approver statement does not have any leg to stand on unless it is corroborated by hard evidence. So let's just take an example. Let's say one of the approvers comes and says that, look, there was a meeting between 4 people. Now, that statement will be cross-examined. The fact as to whether there is a meeting or not, the very location of our mobile phones today will show whether at this particular point of time on this date, whether you were here in this meeting along with the 3 other people who were there in the meeting with you. Yes or no? Yes. The takeaway from what transpired at the meeting may differ because that's a matter of perception, but that is subject to cross-examination. So this nexus between electoral bonds and the suggestion that there is a quid pro quo. Look, lawyers are trained to look at hard evidence. And whereas, yes, there is, the Supreme Court has said that there is a possibility of a quid pro quo, but that does not necessarily mean that in every case where there is an electoral bond that has been purchased, that there was a quid pro quo. I think here it is a question of just bad timing, but that is also because 8 summons went unanswered, right? And the ED is not a PR agency; it's an investigation agency.
Okay, so but on the point of the nexus, you're still saying that that's not enough for Kejriwal to argue that actually the money trail leads to the BJP, which is the political allegation that the AAP is making.
I think the allegation is that in exchange for being granted an approval status, electoral bonds were contributed to the BJP. That's the allegation. Now, the point is that the process of granting an approval also goes to the court. So to say that there is a nexus is a huge disrespect to the court, because what we are suggesting then is that Mr. Modi and the BJP has a hotline to every court in the country. I don't think that that conclusion can be reached so easily. And what that conclusion is doing today, I think, there was a statement by several lawyers today who take exception to this, because what you are doing is you are in a way questioning the credibility of our courts. Our constitution and our judicial system is very much intact as of today. Please take recourse to the court. If you have nothing to no guilt to admit or no crime has been committed, then you will get redress.
Yeah,
as far as the arrest is concerned, if you do not appear for summons, you have a legal duty. Please tell me which Aam Aadmi can come up and say that no, I will not come. Please, let's do a VC or send a question. Can anybody, let's forget an Aam Aadmi person, can any wealthy businessman today in the country say that, okay, you sent me a summons, I'm not going to answer the summons, I'm not going to appear personally, which, by the way, the Supreme Court has said is a legal duty because this is a fact-finding mission. You ignore that summons till elections are declared, so that gives you a plank. Look, I'm talking only about the law. I'm not a political person here. But there is something very much wrong in this kind of a conduct, because what you are really doing is grandstanding.
Okay, lots of points there. I will show you the letter that Mr. Bilamoria is speaking about, Harish Salve and others signing on to a letter that's saying the integrity of the judiciary is being questioned when judgments don't coincide with, or don't sort of indulge in confirmation bias. That's the essence of it. We'll show you the letter in just a moment. Akshay, very brief interjection because the other 3 guests are waiting. Akshay Marathi. Go ahead.
Barkha, I'm quite shocked that anybody who is from the BJP or is supporting the BJP is acknowledging on television that yes, they took 60 crore rupees from a scam accused, but no, we have no nexus with them. Are we supposed to be fools? Do you think we don't understand what it means when you're saying yourself that he's a scam accused? He has allegedly paid bribe. He's even confessed to have been paid bribe. But the BJP then chooses to take money from him. What does that make the BJP? Does it not make the BJP a scamster itself by the same logic of the PMLA, where by association you can make somebody a criminal? The BJP becomes the biggest criminal in this case. So I think it is rather shocking that everybody is willing to acknowledge that they took money from a scamster, but they have no guilt to be made out of it. And I'm also shocked that Mr. Raju, ASG Raju, who's representing the government in the court today, defended the BJP and said, no, there is no nexus. How does he know there is no nexus? Have they committed an investigation against the BJP? Have they conducted any kind of inquiry about why that money was exchanged between the scam accused? So before committing an investigation, everybody is willing to, pass a judgment. But in Arvind Kejriwal's case, there is not a single documentary evidence of a money trail, except for this one statement. There is no money being exchanged hands, except for this, word of mouth.
I muted myself by mistake. Percy, you wanted to come in for a brief interjection. I really do have to go to the others who've been waiting very patiently.
First of all, I have nothing to do with the BJP. I'm an apolitical person. I do object to anybody who questions the integrity of our courts and our constitution. And I think there are several lawyers today who have come out with the same statement. Sometime in the afternoon, I saw that letter and I couldn't agree more with that.
Okay, we'll have more discussion on that letter and how polarizing even the conversation around the judicial process has become. Mr. Bhamla, a quick response. The fact is that most people will look at this and say, "Dal mein kuch kala hai." ये कैसा accused है जो approver बन गया जिसने फिर 55 crore approver बनने के बाद बीजेपी को दिए? It's just instinctive. Mr. Bilamoria's point is well taken. It's not illegal. And the court has to decide. The court will have the last word. The judicial process will have the last word. I agree with all of that. But intuitively, does it not put the BJP on the back foot at a time when the Americans are also riding roughshod, making, not one but two sets of comments on this issue? Asif Hamla.
देखिए, दाल में कुछ काला है आप यहाँ कह रही है, लेकिन वहां तो पूरी दाल ही काली है ना. आप उसका क्या करोगे? The arrest has been upheld with judicial processes, and you agree with that? You see, the High Court ने आपको राहत नहीं मिली, आपको रिमांड नहीं मिल रहा है, आप सरकार जेल से चढ़ा रहे हो. अच्छा, यही रूल आपने मनीष सिसोदिया के टाइम आपने उनको रिजाइन करवाया. आप अपने लिए, हमारा कोई, that's not our प्रॉब्लम और प्रेरोगेटिव कि आप रिजाइन करो या ना करो, भले आप चलाइए, जेल से सरकार चले, लेकिन आपको जेल से जानकारी कहां से मिल रही है? Where on earth are you getting an information from what is happening in Atishi's department or what is happening in Saurav's department? How can you visualize and know what's happening from there? As a chief minister, आपके पास आज 63 MLAs. Is there nobody else who's so competent to take over a post of a chief minister in case if Arvind Kejriwal is arrested? Well, again, that's again not an issue or prerogative of ours. As far as America is concerned, India is strong-fisted and we have a very strong prime minister to not succumb to any pressure of any external forces. If someone has done wrong, he has to be dealt with. As far as Percy's, what he's mentioned, I certainly endorse the sensible. He has put across some very, very sensible points, which were a lesson to even a spokesperson like me. I mean, whatever, even if an approval statement is happening, it has to be corroborated with facts via a cross-examination. You can't just jump to conclusion, and you can't expect that the prime minister is in hotline with all the judges and and all the courts of the country. What are they coming up with? It is sheer nonsense. You are falling flat on your face. तुम्हारा एक MP है पंजाब में, वो भी आपको छोड़कर जा चुका है. अब इस परिस्थिति में भी आप जो है झूठ का सत्य दिखाना चाह रहे हो. आप खुद लिकर स्कैम में इतने बुरी तरीके से घेरे हुए हो, आप हम पर उंगलियां दिखा रहे हो. अरे मैं आपसे ये पूछता हूं कि आज तो कांग्रेस भी कह रही कि भाई अरविंद केजरीवाल should resign. I saw a statement of a very senior Congress leader also mentioning this today in this. So what आपने क्या कट्टर ईमानदारी की जब आप बात करते हैं एक पढ़ी लिखी सरकार में आप हैं, और आपके पास कोई और है नहीं मुख्यमंत्री जो यहाँ बाहर इतने सारे एमएलए, उनमें से आप किसी एक को योग्य नहीं समझते? Last 10 seconds. India against corruption में, when you people were there, you people used to ask for a resignation on a drop of a hat. कि नहीं, आज सोनिया गांधी ने रिजाइन करना चाहिए अगेंस्ट करप्शन, आज लालू ने रिजाइन करना चाहिए अगेंस्ट करप्शन, आज मुलायम ने रिजाइन करना चाहिए। आज आप खुद उन्हीं पार्टियों के संग जुड़ गए हो, आज उनके साथ मिलकर आप सबसे बड़ा करप्शन का एक चित्र और मुखौटा बन गए हो। लेकिन जनता देश की आपको भूलेगी नहीं। केजरीवाल जी, आपको जवाब देना पड़ेगा, और मोदी जी की सरकार, भारतीय जनता पार्टी, कोई भी दबाव में आने की आप अपेक्षा ना रखें। 8 समन्स,
अच्छा मुझे बोलने दीजिए,
Barkha ji, you have rejected 8 summons. Sorry, give me 5 more seconds. You have rejected 8 more summons. Do you believe in the law of the land? This is not Pakistan. You can't have a bloody banana republic. Sorry to say that. You have to be accountable. Sorry.
Okay, one of the very important points that you raised that a lot of people may have actually sympathy with is that the AAP was so sanctimonious about every other political leader. Today they expect the entire political class to respond in a very different way. There are a lot of people who may feel that the AAP is a sort of poetic, a full circle happening here, poetic justice of some kind. We'll get Akshay to come in on that later. Abhijit and Sanjoy have been waiting. Abhijit, to you first. I also want to bring in what's happening between India and America. It's important to talk a little bit about that. The Americans are doubling down. Hours after a top diplomat is summoned, the Americans offer comments a second time, completely knowingly, almost tongue-in-cheek. The MEA has responded, saying it's unwarranted, it's unacceptable. What's going on here?
The one thing that's very clear, Barkha, is that because Biden is such a weak president, the US government has been working in silos since 2020. They don't have that. The problem with the American system is it's like what Augustus did to the Roman Empire. If the emperor is strong, the system is strong. If the emperor is weak, then everything else is weak. It functions exactly like that. Here, state especially, I don't know if you remember that 2003 paper, which was that defense is from Mars and state is from Venus, taking on a very famous other metaphor. State has always been very Democrat-leaning. It has always been quite aware, progressive, let's call it that. And there is a significant woke strand in that right now. Now, you have to keep your constituency happy. You will see there are lots of woke people even within state, even posted out here, for example. The ambassador, for example, doesn't have time for any serious diplomacy like the technocrats he replaced. He's a political appointee and he does, public relations diplomacy and things like that. All of that comes at a price. You've had a significant lowering of the level of professionalism at the embassy out here, the level of intelligence collection at the embassy out here, and most importantly, all the checks and balances that exist in state and defense in Washington are no longer functioning because the silos are operating completely independently without consequence. And that's what's happened out here. But if you notice the German spokesperson, Christian Wagner, he corrected what his predecessor said last week. After the démarche was issued to the German government, he comes on today and he gave a very politically correct statement because, he's been posted in India for 4 years, so he knows exactly how things work out here. He said the exact same thing, but in a completely non-offensive way. State does not seem to get the art of saying it in a non-offensive way.
Before I go back to the legality of it with Sanjoy Ghosh, do you believe that a diplomatic summons was necessary? Do you believe that was, there's one view even among those who support the government that it may have been slightly OTT, because after that, for the Americans to have doubled down, now what do you do?
Exactly. So I'm in the camp that doesn't believe it was necessary, because all they said was, India has the rule of law. We expect that processes and things will be followed, which is something they said during Article 370 abrogation as well. And it's kind of neither here nor there statement open to interpretation, which is a safe thing to tread. So I don't know why the government got so touchy about it this time, because I read no offense in either the German or the American statement.
Could have just been ignored. Sanjoy, what can't be ignored is the noise at home in election season. The fact that this is the first sitting chief minister you have with very serious constitutional questions that might arise. I'm not sure what Percy will think about it, but let me get your take first. Can Kejriwal run this government from jail, and for how long? There is one analysis that believes, I don't know if Akshay will agree, that maybe the political calculation is to dare the lieutenant governor to actually impose president's rule and try and convert that into a political opportunity.
Well, Barkha, before I respond to that, you've said repeatedly that there's nothing illegal in what in the electoral bonds.
In my understanding, if I'm wrong, I'm open to correction.
Yes. So may I just humbly try to correct your impression? You see, the concept of proceeds of crime. Now, the whole understanding is that the Sharath Reddy, whatever, has given a bribe, right? And obtained a liquor policy and has obtained undue favors or obtained excess money and profit under the liquor policy. So therefore, if you see that this donation of 55 odd crores is made after it is public that he is the kingpin, at that time he was a kingpin. It is made public that he is in a PMLA case. It's made public that there are proceeds of crime, that his company, the money that his company has got are proceeds of crime. And as you know, the PMLA law follows the proceeds of crime. So wherever the proceeds of crime goes, the law follows it. So when that money, which is allegedly got through illegal means or bribery, is then given in the form of electoral bonds, and one party, knowing that this person is tainted, this person is facing a criminal prosecution under the PMLA, accepts that electoral bond. See, electoral bond per se is not illegal, but in these circumstances, definitely it's proceeds of crime. So therefore, I don't know how you're so confident that there is no illegality in this process. Secondly, of course, unlike Percival, who's...
I just wanted to explain. My understanding was that bonds per se, at the time that they were purchased, were legal, right?
Absolutely. Barkha, one second. I'm sorry. See, buying bonds is legal, buying house is legal, buying cars is legal, buying jewelry is legal. But when that is through proceeds of crime, it comes under the PMLA. So therefore, so for example, if Manish Sisodia buys a house, it's legal. But if he has bought that house through alleged proceeds of crime or the liquor, then that is subject to PMLA action, attachment, and criminal action.
Okay. So maybe I should have qualified my words that the purchase of the bonds per se is not illegal.
Absolutely.
But if the money used to purchase the bonds are from proceeds of crime, then there is a question mark over
of PMLA.
It. Yeah. Correct. Okay. Now you want to add something? Yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
Now let me come to the second point. See, I was saying, unlike Percival, who's been very politically correct, I have never been accused of political correctness. So let me say that the only thing which I agree with him is that, I don't know who the hell told this Aam Aadmi people to follow the strategy of avoiding summons. That was absolute stupidity or sheer brilliance. If it was sheer brilliance, of finally calling out the ED as not a statutory agency, but actually a wing of the political party ruling at the center, then they should have followed it through. And they should have simply, like Mahatma Gandhi, who refused to accept the British court and say, okay, I will not contest because I don't accept this court. I don't accept this law. I think this law is unjust. You punish me. So you can't have your cake. You can't have your cake and eat it too. There is a legal system. There are summons. Even however illegal they are, you have to challenge them or obey them. So I don't know what strategy they were following. If they were following a political strategy, it was brilliant to call out the ED for what it is or is perceived to be. But then you can't run around going to the same courts, asking for protection from arrest, going to the same court, challenging the remand. This does not gel. But having said, one second. Just I patiently waited for half an hour. Just 1 second. But having said that, let's be very clear that all this while, when you had judgments on 370, when you had judgments on demonetization, you did not have these so-called prominent people getting, raising any kind of concern. In fact, I have a counter view. I feel suddenly when you've had the Chandigarh election, mayor election verdict, and you suddenly had the election bond scheme, this so-called letter of so-called 600 very prominent lawyers is in fact an attempt to overhaul the court and an attempt to try to influence the court to act in a particular way. So therefore, there's always a counterpoint to this. And one last point, Barkha, there's one last point. Percival tries to drag in the court unnecessarily and say, oh, the court has given the approval. Are you trying to challenge the court? Are you saying the court is in league with the BJP? Let's be very clear. We are not babes in the wood. At that time, when the court had given the approver status, the election bond data was not out. It was not in the public domain. The court had no way to know that what is the behind the scenes wheeling and dealing that is happening. So, let's not unnecessarily try to create a controversy.
Okay, let's take the last point. Last 2 points to Percival, and then I'll come to you, Akshay. 2 points I have. One is that if the proceeds of, if the money used to purchase these bonds are proceeds of crime, then PMLA applies. So on what basis can I question morality but not legality? Question 1. And question 2, this letter, we have copies of this letter. We just played it on our screen. That this letter, in some ways, Sanjoy is seeing is the opposite. He's seeing it as a way to intimidate the court that has been taking strong positions both on electoral bonds and the Chandigarh mayor elections. Mr. Pilamoria, go ahead.
Yeah, so look, one thing that I agree with what we just heard from my learned friend is that there is now a very clear trend when one part of the political divide gets a good judgment or a good decision, then they hail the Supreme Court and the Constitution. When there is a decision which is not in their favor, then the narrative changes to democracy is in danger. Now, I'm saying that, look, it is because this narrative is being spun that today we have this utter umbrage where diplomatically the United States has the gall to stand up and suggest that we hope that the rule of law will be followed. Are you suggesting that the courts in this country and all the officers of the court have been hatching eggs all this time? Have we not been following the rule of law? This is I do believe that this is one of the reasons why the 600 lawyers stood up and said it's time to defend the courts in this country which stand for the Constitution and have always done so. That is the thing. Secondly, while we are speaking about the US and on this whole issue of, today there was a PIL asking Mr. Kejriwal to resign, and the court said that we will not intervene. All right. So now, please tell me, are you saying that that decision was wrong? Because are you saying that the courts of this country act according to what the BJP and Mr. Modi says? Because if you spin that narrative, it's a very dangerous narrative. And we are going to get into more situations like the US questioning us. Just one thing. Let me give you an example. I think sometime around Christmas, New Year, Mr. Lloyd Austin disappeared for a few days. And later it was discovered that he was in hospital. He had checked into hospital. And there was a furor in the media because, for the Secretary of Defense to not be available at a time when the Gaza conflict was going on, it was held as something where it's a dereliction of duty because he's not available to serve the country. Now we have an almost similar situation. A jail is not a hospital, but ultimately at the end of the day, you are not available. Right? So I think we don't have protocol. Let me be very clear. I don't think there is any law. I stand to be corrected. I don't think there's any law either way, which I believe that this is what the Delhi High Court has said today, which is a correct decision that we cannot.
I think that's a very interesting question. Actually, give me a second, Abhijit. I want to bring you in. There's no precedent in a way for what we're seeing today, a sitting chief minister in jail. But Percy Pilamoria makes the point that if you're going to keep responding to courts basis your own political bias, so the courts are, democracy is in decline if the judgment doesn't go your way, but what about the judgment that threw the PIL out that actually wanted Kejriwal to resign? The same court that hasn't given him bail has also thrown another, a petition asking for him to resign. Now, the cynics would argue it's judge-driven. It depends on which bench you get. I don't know. But the AAP is not attacking the judiciary. It's attacking the BJP, to which the logical question that Sanjoy and Percival will have to take on, as one part of lawyers have taken on today, is are we saying the courts are influenced? In which case, the Americans will wade in and say, hey, what about rule of law?
The answer lies in your question, Barkha. Like you said, AAP isn't attacking the courts. They're attacking the BJP. But remember, this is the same AAP that actually supports these ED powers. Arvind Kejriwal wanted these quasi-judicial powers that the ED has ever since its inception in 56, 57 to be enhanced. even though many of us have been pointing out that, that these are coercive powers. Excuse me. This is the same AAP. Do you remember Tajinder Pal Singh Bagga's arrest? They actually sent the police at night to pick him up outside jurisdiction because he mocked Kejriwal at night from his house without informing Delhi local police, transported him through another state, Haryana, and then Punjab police got arrested by Haryana police for kidnapping. They actually support a police state. So, it's not surprising that they're essentially facing what they supported. This was the same AAP that essentially wanted pehle resignation, fir investigation. Now, if you don't, pehle resignation, investigation is their slogan. It is not a rule. Jayalalitha resigned for those, that 6-month period between March 2009 and September 2009, I think it was, as did Soren just recently, I think last month or the last month. But if Kejriwal doesn't want to resign, there's nothing that can force him to resign. It is entirely up to him. The question is one of logistics. Can he actually function from jail? Because a CM or a PM is not a king. They are primus inter pares, first amongst equals. They have to listen to advice and counsel and things like that. And you certainly can't be sitting in jail and holding Zoom meetings or Skype meetings or StreamYard meetings to decide policy. So how does it serve anyone? You're also not allowed written communication with the outside world. So how is that serving anyone?
Yeah, actually, lots of questions for you. Let's start with this idea that the AAP has been careful not to attack the courts. You've made it all about the BJP, but it's been pointed out that the same courts throughout a petition wanting Mr. Kejriwal to resign. Question one. Question two, the horrible idea of being hoisted by your own petard, a party that had press conferences listing the corrupt, basis no due process today at the receiving end. But of due process, right? So you can make a mistake, you can change, you can evolve, but people will point that out.
Barkha, I'll take your first question first. Look, as much as we are frustrated by what is happening in the judiciary, we are not attacking the judiciary solely because the judges are bound by the law which is laid down under the PMLA Act. Section 45 of the PMLA Act has been made extremely strong. It very clearly says that there is a presumption of guilt until the judge is satisfied of prima facie innocence. Now, what does that mean?
Are you disagreeing, Mr. Bilamoria? Are you disagreeing with that interpretation of the law?
Absolutely. Because
Can I finish my point?
Yes, please finish.
Yeah.
Please finish.
So that is my interpretation of the law. A lot of people hold the same view. I can understand if somebody else does not, and that's fine. But as we understand it, as the judges themselves have been explaining, that they cannot give bail to people who the enforcement directorate very clearly accuses of money laundering until the court is convinced of their innocence. So it is actually a flipping of jurisprudence that we have seen in this country for the last 70 years, where you are innocent until proven guilty. So unfortunately, until the enforcement directorate says that these people must be locked up in jail, they will be locked up in jail. The only alternative is to pay the BJP through electoral bonds or to join the BJP. That is the only way in which the enforcement directorate will tell the court, okay, now you can let them go.
But Akshay, I just want to make the point that every party other than the communists has received money through these bonds, opening itself up to potential quid pro quos. I do believe that there are dodgy sort of details, timings, but AAP and Aurobindo Pharma isn't the only one that can throw up those questions. The AAP has also received bonds.
I concede your point, Barkha. Aurobindo Pharma gave BJP 60 crores after turning approver. Aam Aadmi Party got a total of 62 crores throughout the 6 years. So, I don't mean to be frivolous here, but the BJP got 8,000 crores and Aam Aadmi Party got a petty 62 crores, which is anybody can make an argument about the fact that AAP got electoral bonds. I
just think the problem is in a country where you have too much government, and it doesn't matter which government, too much government and business will always feel compelled to give money to government, whichever party is in power. If Mr. Bilamoria, can you wait just a second? I'll come to Asif Bhamla, then Sanjoy, and then I'll end with you. Yes, Asif Bhamla, go ahead.
I have to just leave for my Rosa.
Please make your last comment.
I'll make my last comment.
Yeah.
So what I would like to say is that earlier they used to come with the narrative that pehle istifa, fir jaanch. And now you see the narrative, the drastic change in the narrative. You see, it is the same Arvind Kejriwal government which has always, obstructed the policies of the central government, whether it is a welfare policy or development. But now they are pinpointing on the Honorable Prime Minister for the smallest of the smallest thing. Now tell me something. I mean, like I mentioned earlier, even the Congress has been raising its voice in a very high pitch that they should that Arvind Kejriwal should resign. When I believe the Sunita, which happens to be his wife, is she a lawyer who is conducting on behalf of the chief minister? Is she ordering the notes? Which are these notes constitutional, or are they bureaucratically tracked down? Who's going to analyze that? You see, there is no there is no entity towards this. And who are the specific orders going to, and where the issues from? You see, without the custody, with the CM being in the custody, how does he relate to the ministers? How does he put forth his point to the ministers? And how are various things happening? It's all in Laksha. I mean, the country needs to know that. How can you just do things?
Fair question. We'll let you go for your Rosa, but we put your question to Sanjoy Ghosh. Thanks, Mr. Bhavla. Sanjoy Ghosh, first set of questions. Nobody quite knows because we've not been here before, right? What do you see happening now? And I also want to go back briefly as we end the program to this letter by the lawyers that you're quite cynical about, Sanjoy Ghosh. The letter, Harish Salve and others, Pinky Anand, have signed on to it. Why are you cynical about this letter as a fellow lawyer?
Well, I am cynical because everyone in the legal fraternity can can make out from the signatures as to the kind of allegiance, political allegiance those lawyers have. Many of those lawyers have. So it is not it's not rocket science to figure out why they have done it and on whose behest they have done it, whether they've done it for the independence of the judiciary or whether they've done it for the sake of coming in support of a political party. Fair enough. Everyone has a right to raise their views for any political party. There were lawyers for that AAP who were also creating that ruckus in front of courts. So, I am not commenting on that. But the point that you were saying is very important, that we are in uncharted territory. Okay, even the Honorable Acting Chief Justice of the Delhi High Court said that, there's no constitutional prohibition or there's a law which the court can enforce. This is a matter of policy where the Honorable Lieutenant Governor and Her Excellency the President will have to take a call. And of course, the principles of democratic governance has to be followed. We are in uncharted territory because till now, when Ambedkar drafted this constitution, we did not think there will be a situation where an enforcement agency will feel the need to actually put behind bars a sitting chief minister, because there is he is not a flight risk. He is not tampering with evidence because the case is already 2 years old. And the general parameters of requiring custody of course, Kejriwal has also, by not responding to the summons, added a problem to that. If he had challenged the summons or answered the summons, maybe a different story. But now coming back to this point, that since we are in uncharted territory, so law has to be creative. Someone was talking about Zoom. Will it be from Zoom? Why not? When the constitution was written, there was no concept of Zoom. So we did not even think that I am in Calcutta right now. I appeared in a court in Delhi day before yesterday, sitting in Calcutta. So if there is technology, if technology is being used, why cannot be used for the sake of governance? So
if you give Kejriwal that right, you'll have to give everybody that right. If somebody else
let's be very clear, Barkha, Kejriwal is not everybody, unfortunately or fortunately, and I'm not talking about Kejriwal the person. Kejriwal, the chief minister, is a chief minister of a union territory.
Got it.
So
okay,
it is for the citizens of Delhi that this has to be done.
Okay,
we've
got only a couple of minutes left. Akshay, concluding comment, then Abhijit, then Percival can close. Yes, Akshay.
Barkha, Arvind Kejriwal has sworn a constitutional oath to serve the people of Delhi. Now that the ED has decided to arrest him, it is now up to the constitutional authorities to create the kind of paraphernalia required for Mr. Kejriwal to exercise his constitutional duty, because he's sworn by the constitution. He cannot not undertake his duties. The jail manual needs to be amended. It needs to be evolved for this kind of situation. He needs to be given the kind of resources that he needs to run the government, because remember, he's not a convict. He's not been even charge sheeted yet. So how can you say that he should not carry out his constitutional duty that he's sworn by?
Okay. Abhijit, I think it was you who said he can't do StreamYard for jail, and Sanjay Ghosh is saying, why not?
Exactly. But the thing here is, again, we're going down to individual cases. This is a systemic issue. It's not just ED which has quasi-judicial powers. It's also the gynocentric laws out here, where the Anglo-Saxon presumption of innocence is reversed to the Napoleonic presumption of guilt. And that has to be fixed across the system, especially in gynocentric laws. Notice nobody is talking about fixing the system. It's all I, me, myself, individual cases out here.
Correct.
And taking oaths and things like that, Barkha. I mean, this is a man who swore an oath on his daughter's life not to enter politics. I don't take his oaths very seriously, but we need to take systemic fixes rather than individuals. Let's not focus on Kejriwal. Let's fix on the overreach of ED, the kind of powers it has, this sort of infiltration of Napoleonic presumption of guilt into our systems.
Mr. Bilamoria, I think that last point is a great point. Bail was meant to be the norm, not the exception. Our courts seem to have increasingly reversed that trend. Let's forget Kejriwal. Let's talk about that.
Look, so I do believe that this is a wrong presumption, that in the PMLA, the presumption of guilt is reversed. And I'll tell you why. See, before you apply for bail comes arrest. Now, for very long, we've had a law according to which somebody could be arrested on reasonable suspicion. PMLA is different because before somebody is arrested, the ED has to produce in writing to say that they have reasonable grounds to believe. I'm sorry, based on the RUDs, which is the documents in their possession, they have reason to believe that the person is guilty. Then, after that is produced in writing, when you apply for bail, you can rebut that, and the rebuttal is a lower standard, because here, unlike reason to believe, it is I have reasonable grounds to believe that I am not guilty. So when you compare that to Section 19, which require, now for long what used to happen is there was a different standard that ED followed. In many states, they gave the grounds of arrest. In some states, they gave it, but it was a couple of paras. Then there was the decision in Central Balaji, followed by Pankaj Bansal. And now the Supreme Court has very clearly set out that there must be a written grounds of arrest that is submitted. And your bail application has to rebut those grounds. And your standard is in fact lower. So the person who has arrested you, his standard is higher. Now, so this is another example of our courts continuously changing the system to make it more fair.
But is it more fair? Do you think he should not be given bail? Keep investigating him, take away his passport.
No, see, the point is that he has to apply for bail. He has to apply for bail, and he is right now challenging the remand. Now, yes, I'll tell you one thing. Look, at the end of the day, it is correct to say that the judiciary at the district court level is a little wary about granting bail, especially in high-profile cases like this.
Because Mr. Sisodia has been in jail, as Akshay pointed out, for over a year now.
Yeah, but I think, the judiciary at the district court level is reluctant to grant bail. But then if you progress rapidly, and I do believe that in this case, Mr. Kejriwal's lawyers are going to progress it rapidly.
Yeah.
The courts at the High Court level and the Supreme Court level will not hesitate to give you bail, right? Provided you meet the test. The test is, do you have reasonable grounds to believe that you are not guilty?
Okay. I think
so trust the court system.
We leave it there. The lawyers' letter deserves a program of its own. So we'll get the lawyers on this panel back for that maybe tomorrow. But thank you, Percival Villamoria, Sanjoy Ghosh, Abhijit Mitra, and Akshay Marathi earlier to us in Bhamla. Thank you, and see you tomorrow.
Mojo Story has always made a commitment to its viewers to go to where the story is. And as you can see here, we are at the epicenter of the Israel war on Gaza. We are right at the front line, about 1 mile from the Gaza Strip, as the Israeli military gets ready with its tanks and its gunners to begin its final frontal assault that will take troops into Gaza. As we said, we are not like other organizations. We believe in giving you all sides of the story objectively and as much as possible from the ground. And that's exactly what we're doing here, covering the biggest global story today from the epicenter of the war zone. So please, we need your support. Support us, become a Mojo member, subscribe to us, spread the word, and thank you for your support.